Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. Today in this video we are going to cover a very interesting topic. We are going to create a full stack application using Angular 18, Spring Boot and MySQL. In that we are going to create our Angular standalone application using version Angular 18. In that we are going to create our material table using Angular material library, and we are going to populate columns and data. We are also going to implement CRUD functionalities, and we are going to implement important features like searching, sorting and pagination with the help of Angular material library. And apart from that, we are also going to use material dialog box, which we are going to use for addition and addition of our API. Like whenever we want to add our employee or edit employee, that time we are going to use the uh, Angular material dialog form. On the backend side, this is about the front end side. On the backend side, we are going to use Spring Boot, and we are going to implement the CRUD APIs using REST API. And on the database side, we are going to use MySQL. So this is about the overall short introduction of what we are going to achieve in this video. The best thing is that we are going to use all the latest versions like Angular 18 and Material and all. So these are some. This is the editor tool like VS Editor, Spring Tool Suite, and these are the front end versions like Angular CLI 18.2.3, Node V 20.11.1, NPM 10.5.0, Material 18.2.5, and on the backend side we are going to use Java 17, Spring Boot 3.2.5, and Maven. As a database, we are going to use MySQL, and we are going to use exam control panel, which is a user interface to create database and tables on the MySQL database side, and we are also going to use Postman, through which we are going to test our REST APIs. So this is about all the toolings and versions we are going to use to create our application. And I repeat, like we are going to use latest technologies and versions to achieve this and to create our application. These are some steps which we are going to follow in sequence. First, we'll see the user interface of our application. Next, like we are going to create our database and table on the MySQL site using exam control panel. Next, we are going to create our Spring Boot application. We will configure the MySQL database. We are going to implement CRUD operations, and we will test our CRUD APIs using Postman. So this is about backend side. On the front end side, we will create our Angular 18 standalone application using Angular ng new command, and we are going to create a material table using Angular material library. As a part of functionalities, we are going to implement CRUD APIs, filter, sorting, pagination alongside with CRUD APIs, and for that we are going to use material library. And finally, we will test our end-to-end functionality through UI browser and verify the result on in MySQL side in MySQL database as well as on UI browser. So this is about the steps which and points which we are going to cover. And as we can see, like these are all points we are going to cover. So I will request you, like please watch this video from start to end so that you will not miss anything in between. So please subscribe my channel Code for Tech Solutions, wherein like I have created number of videos including front end like React and Angular as a front end. On the backend side, like I have covered Spring Boot and Node.js, and on the database side I have covered H2 database, MySQL, MongoDB, MariaDB, PostgreSQL. So all these combinations I have created videos on. Like I have created number of full stack applications with the combination of React plus Spring Boot and React plus Node.js, as well as I have created videos with the combination of Angular plus Spring Boot and Angular plus Node.js. So these are all combinations I have created full stack videos on. So please do visit to my channel, which is Code for Tech Solutions, and I am sure you will find at least one video which you would like to see. So please do visit and watch the video which you like most. So I have also included today's video in this list. So let us start our code. Start with our first point. I will show you the user interface. So this is our user interface, how it will look like. Like this is the header part, and this is the search filter through which we can enter any text, and accordingly the data will get filtered out. Let's say for Ajay. Next, like Kaira, fine. And let's say for salary 50,000. Yes, fine. So what text we enter, accordingly the table data will get filtered out. So next, like we have implemented sorting functionalities. You can see in the sorting will be applicable to the column headers, and accordingly the table data will get sorted in ascending and descending order. Next thing, below the table we can see there is a pagination, and whenever we click on next page it will show the next 5 records. Whenever we click on next page it will show the next page, and once we reach the last page it will disable the next page and last page, because we do not have any further page to show. Similar way, whenever we click on previous page it will take us to the previous page, and once we reach on the first page it will disable the first page and previous page button, because we do not have any previous page to show. We can control the number of items per page from here. Like we can select the number of items, and accordingly the data will get displayed in the list. Now this is about the sorting and pagination part. Now we have this add button, through which once we click it will open the material dialog, and here we can enter our entry, like employee name, let's say Tushar, and here we can add the same tushar@gmail.com, and here we can add the salary, let's say 66,000. Let us check. We can see the entry is added successfully. Similar way, if you want to edit any entry, let's say here is Ajit. If you want to edit the entry, let's say Ajit, instead of Ajit we want to add for Santosh. Basically we are modifying this entry, and here we can say it's a 67,000. Now we need to check for Santosh. Yes, we can see the entry is edited successfully. Similar way, if we want to delete any entry, we can simply click on delete button. Let's say this is the ID 13. If we want to delete it, we can click on the delete button. It will show us the confirmation box. Once we click on OK button, the record will get deleted. Now we can see last ID is deleted successfully. So this is about all the CRUD operations, along with searching, sorting, pagination we are going to see from scratch. So I will request you to please watch this from start to end. Let me close the existing application so that we can open the new one. Here we can give our workspace name. So before we create our backend application, so let us create a database and table on the XAMPP control panel with the help of this. We need to first start this Apache server. Next, MySQL we can start, and once we click on admin button, it will show the user interface like this one. And here what we can do, like we can create one new database. We can click on new, and here we can create, like let's say So let us first delete this employee master which is existed, and we can create a new one similar to this one. Fine. Now let us create one new database with name employee master. So here the database is still existed. We need to refresh. So we can remove it first. Fine. Now let us create a new database with the name of employee master and check. Fine. Here we can create one table with name employee, and we can create 4 columns for that. Now first can an ID, and this is the begin, and here we can make it as an auto increment. Next is the name, which is a varchar. Next like email, which is again varchar, and this is the salary, which is int. And here for varchar we can define some length. Fine. So we have 4 different columns with 4 different data types. We can save it. Fine. We have created the table. Now we have created employee underscore master table, and inside employee underscore master as a database inside which we have created employee table. So we are done with our database and table creation part. Now let us create our backend application. We can choose this third option, create new Spring starter project. Here we can create our backend application with name employee service, and here we can choose Maven, packaging as a jar, Java version 17, and here we can add employee, can mention employee service, and here you can mention it's an employee com.employee as a package. We need to add the dependency, like we need to add Spring Web, next Spring data JPA, next we are going to add MySQL driver, next we are going to add Lomback. Fine. So we have added all the dependency which is required. Now it has started importing the project. So here we can see this is our version Java 17, and this is the Spring version. Now here this is the Spring data GPA. With the help of this we can create a repository and entity through which we are going to do the like interact with the database. And this is the Spring starter web. We can create the REST controller, and we can make use of annotations available for creating the CRUD APIs like get, post mapping, get mapping, and put mapping and delete mapping. For that we can use this one. And with this MySQL connector we can connect with the MySQL database. It will establish a connection with the MySQL database, and here with the help of Lomback we can remove the boilerplate code, and we can use it for getter and setters. So this is about all the dependencies which we are going to use for this backend application. Now let us do one thing. So let us build our application first and check how it goes. Now it is failing due to test. So let us comment out the test for the time being. Now we can see our build is success. Let us run our application using command run as Spring Boot app. Now it is failed because what by default it is looking for H2 database configuration, whereas we have added MySQL driver as a dependency. So we need to configure the MySQL related properties inside application.properties, after which it will get resolved. Now let us do one thing. Here we can configure our MySQL database related properties. First we can change the server port. By default it is 8080. Let us make it 8087. Now here we can use spring dot data source dot URL. We can use like JDBC colon MySQL colon, it's a local host, and we can use 3307, and here is our database name, which is employee underscore master. So what this port is like, we can go to our exam control pane. If you want to check what port, this is the port, you can see 3307. If you want to check, you can use the config file as well, my.ini, and here you can see this is the port we are going to use. Fine. Next thing, like we can add spring dot data source dot user, and here we can say root. In my case I am using the root for now. If you have created any custom user or new user account, you can use that it here along with the username and password. Right now for me I am using the root username, and here we can use spring.data source dot driver, class name we can use, and here we can mention com.mysql.cj jdbc.driver. spring.jpa.hibernate.auto as an update. Next thing, like we can add spring.jpa.show as a true. With this option, with this update, like if it does not find anything, it will keep on updating for that. And with JPA show SQL, it will show the executed queries in console with this option. Now we can say save it. Now we are done with all the configuration of MySQL. Let us rebuild it and check how it goes. Now the build is success. Now run it using Spring Boot app. We can say our application is running fine. Now let us start our actual implementation part for CRUD APIs. Now first we can create our packages. Now here we can use entity package create first. Next we can create a repository package. Next we can create service package. And finally we can create our controller package. Now let us add the respective component interfaces or classes within these packages. In our case we are going to use employee as an entity. So let us add all the required annotations like all our constructors no are constructors @data @builder, and we can add all the imports for this one. So this @entity is important because with that it will be considered as an entity. Now here we can use private long id. Next we can add string as a name. We can add next as an email, and here we can use integer as in salary. Now we have these 4 fields. We need to add id annotation as well, and here we can add generated value. For this we can add strategy, so we can use generation type as an auto. So what we have done, we have added all the necessary, we have created employee class in which we have added all these necessary annotations like entity and all, and here we have added these many fields like id, name, email, and salary, and we have added id annotation and generation type as an auto, with which it will auto increment the id by 1 every time we insert employee into the database. So this is about entity. Let us create a repository interface with the name like employee repository. Now here we can annotate it using repository, and here it should extend CRUD repository. Here we can mention our entity name and the data type of the primary key, which is a long. That's it. With this we are done with our employee repository. Now let us create one interface for service. We can name it's an employee service, inside which we need to add the methods. So first method we can add for returning the list of employees, and we can name the method like fetch all employees. So this is about interface. Now let us do one thing. We can create one implementer class with name like employee service impl. We can annotate it using service stereotype, and it should implements employee service interface, and we can provide implementation for methods available in service. We have added unimplemented methods here. Fine. Now here first we need to annotate using to add, and here we can use private. It's an employee repository, and here can create the variable for this one. So we have injected or auto add this employee repository into the service. Now here we can call the methods available on this, like let's say employee repository dot find all. So we need to cast to list of employees. Fine, so we are done with this service level method. Now let us do one thing. We can at the same time we can create one controller class with the name of employee controller, so that we can provide implementation for one method, one API from end to end. We can make it like a race controller annotation, and here we can say at wide we can use private employee service. Next thing, like we can provide implementation for gate mapping. Here we can mention the actual path. We can use some best practice we can use API / versioning v1, and after that we can add the endpoint like it's an employee point, and here we do not need, so this will return list of employee, and we can add the annotation import for list. Now here the method name should be fetch all employees, and we do not need to pass the input parameters. And here we can call the respective method on this service to fetch all employees. Now we have added this like list of employees. Now let us do, it's like a response entity. We can add it here, and here like we can wrap the return type into the response entity. Response entity has the return type as well as the status scores. Fine, we can save it. We have saved it. Now we are done with our get all employees or fetch all employees. Now let us do one thing. So we can go back to the service layer. Now here we can add one more method. So let's say it should return employee. We can say find by ID, and this should be long ID. Now we can go back to the service implemented. We need to provide method implementation at here. Now here we can call the respective method on the repository like find by ID, and we can pass this ID. Now this will return the optional, so in order to get the actual object we can call get on this one. Fine, seems good. Now let us add one more method here. Like for this get find by ID, we are not adding any method in controller, so this is like it's till service layer, it is fine. Now let us add one more thing, like here we can create employee method at here, which will take input employee to be inserted or added into the database. Now we can implement the same method into this class. Now we have added this create employee. Now let us add controller. In controller we can copy this part and we can paste it, and we can change this to post mapping because we are going to create employee, and here instead of list it should return the single employee, and we can name it like create employee, and here we can call the respective method, which is like create method, create employee on this service. And here actually we need to pass the request body, and this is the employee input employee which we want to insert into the database, and we can pass this object at here which will get saved into the database. So this is about post mapping. Now similar way we can create one more method for update or put mapping. Here we can say update employee. Now it will, here we need to provide the implementation for update. Now inside controller, so this is the service layer, and inside controller we can add one method for with put mapping, like this should be put mapping, and for put mapping we are going to pass the ID as well, and here we can say we can pass path variable we can use, and inside which the ID, you can say long ID. This is the ID, and next like employee, modified employee we are passing it here, and it should call update employee. This method name should be update employee as well. You can save it. So this is about post mapping. Now here what we can do, first of all we can, for updating the employee we can say, first of all we can retrieve one object from employee repository, like we can call find by ID. We can pass the ID like employee.id, here we can call get. Fine, so we have retrieved a object for against the ID, and here we can check if employee object is not equal to null. In that case what we can do, we can set employee object with the given employee which is has modified. This is for email. We can set name as well. And we can set salary as well. So what we have done, for this input object which has come with modified values, like this is the updated object. Now what we have done, we have retrieved the object from the database for the same ID of this employee object. And now we have updated this retrieved object with the input object values, and finally we need to pass this object to be saved into the database. We are done. Now next thing, like we can create our last thing. So we are done with our update method. We have created in controller as well. Now last thing what we can do, we can create our delete method. You can copy this, and here we can say it should return string, because at repository level repository delete method is returning void, and save it. Fine. Now we can provide the implementation for the method, and here we can call the respective delete method on a repository, and here we can pass this object. Now what we can do, so for deleting the object, so just id is enough to delete the object. So what we can do, like here we can say it's a long id, and here same we can pass it here, it's an id. And what we can do, like we can copy this, like let's say if for this id, if this object is present in database, then we are going to delete this object from the database, and post deletion we need to show some message like the employee is deleted successfully from the database. So for that we can prepare one message like employee deleted successfully for id, and we can mention the id like this is the given id, that's it. And here we can return the delete message. Fine. So this is about delete at service level. Now let us add the controller method, and this should be delete mapping, and for the delete mapping just id is enough, like this is delete, and the return type is a string for the delete. And here we can call delete employee on the service, and here we need to add just id. With that it will delete the record from the database for this id. Fine. So we have everything ready. Now let us do one thing. Here we can add cross origin, because we are going to get request from the client application. XH we can add somewhere. Fine. So we have added everything, like we have implemented CRUD APIs, CRUD functionalities. Now we need to test all those using Postman. Now let us do one thing, like we can rebuild our application, because we have added a lot of code in that. Now this is like build success. Now let us run our application using Spring Boot app. Our application is running fine. Let us check the functionality, test it. Now here this is the URL, like API v1 employees, Now here we can select the JSON. Fine. Now we can see it is showing the empty array because if we cross check into the database side, if we run the query, so we can see there are no record, only table headers it is showing, so which is as expected. Now let us check with our post API how it. Now we need to add one entry. We can use the post mapping, and this is the URL. We can use body text JSON. Fine. Now we need to add one entry, so let us take one entry. So let us add few entries, like let's say we can add 3-4 entries. It here we can add first entry. Yes, we can see first entry is added successfully. That means our post is working fine. So let us add few more entries and check. So this is for second, and ID is getting incremented by 1 every time we insert a new record into the database. Seems good. And this is the final record we can add. We have added four records. Now if we call the get method again and check, we can see we have 4 records as expected. Now we have tested the get and post method. Now let us check with the put method. And to put a method, we need to copy one object and pass the modified object it here. Now we can copy one URL. Now to update the object, first we need to modify it. Let's say this is the Sujata. Instead of Sujata, we can make it as a Natasha, and here we can add the email as a Natasha, and instead of 80,000 we can make it like 55,000. And here for updation or put mapping, we need to add the ID as well along with the modified object. Fine, let us check how it goes. Fine, we can see the record is updated successfully. Now if we go back and call the send method, now we can see, so get method is showing as expected the last record which we have updated. Now if we go back in our table and cross check, refresh, now we can see these are 4 records. It is showing as expected. Now last thing, we can check for delete method, and for delete method we just need to pass the ID, which is enough. Now till now we have 4 records. Now we want the 4th record to be deleted. Now we can see the 4th record is deleted successfully. We can cross check by calling the get method, and we can see there are only 3 records, which is as expected. Now we can cross check in database as well, and here we can see there are only 3 records. So with this we are done with our backend application creation with, and again, like we have implemented all the CRUD functionalities, and we have tested all those using Postman. So now let us focus on the front-end side. So let us create our front-end application. Okay, here we can open the VS Code instance first. Now everything is empty. Now let us do one thing. We can create our Angular application with command engine new, and here we can name our application, which is like employee, let's say web. Now we can select the, so what it has started installing the packages. So till the time it installs, let me show you what all versions we are going to use. Like this is the Angular CLI 18.2.5, Node 20.11.1, and let me show you npm version as well. So which is 10.5.0. These are all latest versions we are going to use. Now with this ng new command, it will create our application which is a standalone by default. Now it has created our application successfully. Let me repeat, with this ng new command, it will create our Angular 18 standalone application. So to create the standalone application, we do not need to do anything because we are using the Angular 18 version. With this, it will create standalone application by default with this command ng new. Now let us go to our project folder, which is like employee-wait. Let us run our application and check. We can run our application using command ng-serve-o. It will launch our application into the browser. Let us type y. Now we can see our application is running fine. Now here we can see all these dependency is added successfully, which is of version 18.2.0 for all the Angular related libraries. Now so far we have not added our Angular material library. Let us go to our project folder, which is our, so we have opened a new terminal. Now here we can open our project folder, employee-wait. Now here first of all we can create add our Angular material using command ng add Angular/material. Here we can select Y for this version, and we can select the default theme as is, and here for typography we can select Y and include and enable animations here. Now we have successfully added Angular material. Now if you want to cross check in package.json, we can see it has added successfully. That's it. Now since good, now what next we can do, like we can create all the components which are required for our application. So before we do that, like first of all, like our Angular application is running on port 4200, whereas our backend application is running on port 8087. So these are all cross platform. So in order to make a communication or establish or to let our Angular application communicate with our backend application which are running on different ports, we need to create one proxy file. Let's say we can say proxy, we can create one config.json file, inside which here we can add, so for this path we can add our target URL where exactly it should redirect to, and for this we can copy the URL, like till this path we can copy, and here we can use for secure as an false. Now if you are using some other host apart from the local host, so you can say like you can add the change origin hit here, like origin you need to add, and you need to pass your host, but right now we are using the local host, and we can save it. Next thing, like we can go to package.angular.json, and here we can go to our serve option, this, and here we can add our options, like inside this we can add proxy config option, and here we can mention where exactly is our proxy config file, proxy.config.json. That's it, and we can save it. Now we have created our proxy config file, and we have directed our Angular application to redirect to this URL, which is of backend URL, and we have given this proxy config path in our serve option in our angular.json file. We can save it. That's it. Now next thing, we can create the component, respective component for our application. We can command ng generate. We can use this command ng generate. First we can create one module with name employee. Now we can see employee module is created successfully. Now let us create one service inside module employee, and we can name our service like employee. Now yes, we can see service is created. Now let us do one thing here. We can create the component next we can create component using command ng generate component, and this is the folder inside which we are going to create the home component, which is a standalone option we can use because it's a standalone application. Now we can see it has created home component successfully. Similar way we can create one more component which is for adding employee or editing employee. So it is, we can call it like employee form, in which we are going to open our material dialog box. Fine. So we have created employee, this is the home, and this is the employee form. Fine. Next thing, like we can create one more component, which is like we are going to create one interface inside this employee, and we can name it like employee itself. Fine. So we are done with component creation. What all things we have done? First of all, we have created one employee module. Inside that we have created one service. And next, like we have created our home component, and each component has its own CSS file, HTML file, text file, and TS file. And we have also created employee form. So the employee form, this we are going to use for adding the employee or updating the employee. This form component we are going to use, and in which we are going to open our material dialog form. Now this home component we are going to use, wherein like we are going to show our table data, as well as we are going to show the search filter text box, as well as the add button, on click of which we are going to open the material dialog box. And on the table side, inside the table, we are going to show the action buttons like edit and delete. So this is these all things we are going to show on home page. Fine. Now let us do one thing. Now let us next thing what we can do. Next thing we can go to our. So before we add next coding, let me show you, because this is Angular 18 application. So you need to know where is the exact entry point for our application. So this is the entry point main.ts, from where our application will get bootstrapped, and this is app.config file. So what all things we can mention, like providers and all, we can mention it here, and that will get bootstrapped from this app config file. Now next thing, we can, this is our routes, and we can add routes. In our case, like this is employee slash home, we can say, and here we can mention what component we are going to render, which is like home component. Similar way we can copy this, and here we can say redirect to, and here we can use path match, which is a full. Similar way we can add one more entry, and this is the empty array, empty endpoint. So what we have done it here, whenever we pass this path, it should go to home component. If we pass employee endpoint, it again should go to home component, redirect to home component, and even if we give the blank, it should show the render the home component. This is about generating or rendering the home component at initial. Fine. So we can save it. Now next thing, we need to show that home component. So for that, what we can do, this is our app.component.html. We can remove everything from here, and we can add router outlet. Right here we can save it. Now here is our browser. We can see it is showing homeworks. That means our router is working fine. Now if we go back and home.html, so this is the output which is showing as expected. What now, this is our home.html, which is routing, using the routing, and here is our route logic, we are redirecting to the home page, and inside home.html, this is the text which are getting displayed at here. That means our routing is working fine. Next thing what we can do, like here, now next thing we need to create our like a home.html. We need to create the controls inside that. Now we can create one root level div. Now here, inside which we can add one line break. Next we can add one h3 header, and we can make it like strong, and we can make this, the header is like it's a full stack with Angular 18 Spring Boot and MySQL. Now we can save it. Now since code it is showing, now what we can do, we can add some style, and we can add some color, and here we can add text align as a center, Seems good. Next thing, like what we can do, we can add one line break. Now here we need to add one mat input. So for that we can use mat form field, and here we can add one input, and for this input we can use mat input. Now to use this mat form field we need to import that, like this is the TS component, like we can import mat form field module. Now here we can add import Angular material form fields. Next we can add mat input module and we can save it. Now we can see it is showing fine. Now here we can add placeholder like search employee. Here we can save it. Now we can save it. Now for this container, first of all we can add some style, like let's say margin top like 100 pixel, margin top like 20 pixel, and margin left like 30 pixel, and next we can mention width, let's say 777 pixel. So we need to save this. Let us do one thing, we can rerun our application and check, because mat input it is not showing. Okay, so here showing proxy config.json is not existed. This is our angular.json. To save it, okay, so file name, there is a mistake in file name. It is proxy config g, we need to add g. Fine, now seems good. Now let us check. Fine, now it is showing as expected. Input box seems good. Now next what we can do, so next, like this is our input, next to this we can add one button, and this is like here we have various options, like we can use matte raised, matte stroked button, we can use matte flat button for now, and here we can add some style. We can, so style is not needed, like okay, style and width we can make it 100 pixel, and here we can add plus. You can save it. Now for this we need to import, like we are using mat button module, we need to import it. You can save it. Now we can see it is showing. We can add float, right, and margin like 15 pixel. We can save it. Seems good. Now it is appearing as expected. Next thing what we can do here, we can add one line break, and after this we are going to show the table. So to show the table, we can go back to the, here we can search for material table. So we can search for angular material. Angular material table, we can say. Here we can see this is the table, and here we can go to view source, and here this is the actual table. So we can copy the div part which has mat table and all, we can copy this, and we can add the whole div it here. Now it is showing mat table as such. Now we can go to, first of all we can save it. Now we can go to home.component.ts. Here we need to add mat table module. Now let us check. Now it is showing the red color to data source only. Now let us go back to the URL, and here we can see ts, and here displayed column and data source we can copy, and we can add it here. For this data source we can use mat table data source, and which is taking employee object, and we can create the instance of this one. can add the import for this one, and we can add import. Okay, so here we need to use new operator. Fine. Now here we have created the data source for our employee, and it is showing all the headers, which is as expected with this change. Now we do not want to use these headers, rather we want to use our own headers. Now let us go to this HTML file and we can change the header part. Now these are the headers. Now we can use our own headers, like first is ID, second is name, next is email, and last is salary, and we can save it. Now we can go back to it here, and here similar way we need to change it, like this is the ID, and here how it will get displayed on the UI. So that header we can mention it here, and here we can mention ID. Now this is the name, and this is the name we can keep as is. Now here this is the email, and copy, and here we can say it's a email, and this is the salary, and copy and edit it here, and we can say it's a salary. Fine. And this is the user rules. Now we go it here. Now what we can do here, we can define our employees, which is an employee array, and we can initialize it with empty array. Now this is the employees which we are going to render into the table. Now we can mention it here, it's on employees. Now here this is the element, we can use the element as is, but if we use employee, it will be more readable, so we can replace everywhere as an employee. Fine. So these are all columns, headers, and data as well we are showing, and this is the list of employees, and for each employee we are showing these rows. Fine. Now we can save it. We can see it is showing the headers which we were expecting. Fine. Now next thing, like it should show the data. Now let us do one thing. Here we have this data source and these employees, but we have not called any API as of now. Now first we need to create the API HTTP methods inside employee service, and we need to give call to them. Now here we can mention our service variable, which is HTTP client. Now in Angular 18, so we need to mention what provider we are going to use in our app.config.ts. So if we are going to use HTTP client, if we want to use that, we need to mention the provider it here, so that we can make use of that. Now we can go back to the service it here. We can create one base URL, and here this is like the variable which is of type string, and we can mention the base URL. Now we can go back it here, and we want to select this option, and this should be the base URL, which is common for all APIs. Next thing, like we can write one method fetch all employees, and it is like observable, and it should return employee list. We can add import for this one. Okay, so now here we can write return this dot HttpClient, and we can call the get method, and here inside get method we can use the backtick, and we need to pass the base URL. That's it. And here this get will return employee list of employees. Fine. So we are done with our get method. Now we need to use this get method in our home component.ts. Now here what we can do, so we can implement go back to our table and check this is our component, and to render the data source, okay, so we can use on init, and we need to provide implement ng on init method. And here what we can do, like here we can call this dot. Now here we need to add one constructor inside which we can use our employee service and mention it an employee service. And here we can call this employee service dot, we can call fetch all employees, and here we can subscribe, and this is the callback data. Here we can use this dot employees, here you can pass this data. That's it, we can save it. What we have done, like we have called this fetch all employees from our service, and we have subscribed the returned data, and this data which is returned from the API we are assigning to this employees variable. Now it is still not showing data. Let us check why it is not showing. Now here we are using the data source so that it will show the data. Now here what we can do, this is our data source. Now it is empty, so we need to pass this data so that it will show the data. Now let us check what will happen. So here it should be this dot data. Seems good. It is showing the data as expected. Now we can see it is showing the data. Now we have only 3 records. Let us check if we have only 3 records. Yes, we can see last record is Kevin. Seems good. Now let us do one thing here. So we need to apply the search. We need to implement searching, sorting, and pagination. For that, we need to add few more records. Now, what we can do, like we can add till Kevin. We have added. We can add few more records. So let us go here at our post mapping, and we can add few more records. Like this is for. Now we have added 12 records. Now if we check, so we have this much records. Now we can easily see the searching, sorting, and pagination on this. Now let us do one thing. First of all, we can implement the search filter functionality. For that, what we can do, like here is our HTML and this is our input. Here we can add one filter like this one, and here whenever we enter any input text, we need to call some function like it's a search employee, and here we need to pass the data. Here we need to pass filter dot value. Now we can save it. Now we need to define this function in our OTS file. Let us do that, and this is the input which is of type string, and here, so this input we can say it's any because salary is the integer. Now here what we can do, now in order to show the filtered data, we need one variable, so we can add one more variable like filtered employees. Now here now we need to filter on original list which is like employees, and here we can call the filter method on that, and here for each atom inside this we can call atom dot name dot so two lowercase, and here dot includes it is not showing anything because this is our employee interface. Let us check if we have added anything into this. Now we have not added anything. Let us add. The id is a number, name is a string, next is our email which is again string, and finally we have salary which is a number. Now we can save it. Now let us go back to our TS here, and here it is showing. Now here we can call the includes method, and we can say input dot to lowercase. We can copy this much, and this is for name. If we want to apply the search filter on email, we can add email as well. Next, if we want to apply it for salary, we can add salary as well. But for salary, we need to first convert it to string. Next, we can say includes input is enough. That's it. Now we have filtered a list. Now let us check what will happen now. So if we filter, let's say Vijay, no, it is not showing anything. Ajay, not, because let us check, because we have just filtered, but in order to show on the table we are using the data source. So what we can do, we need to once again populate the data source with this filtered list, and this is our filtered list. We need to copy and add it here. That's it. Now let us check once again. If we want to search for 1, fine. 11, 10, fine. Vijay, Ajay, and 50,000 seems good. 70, fine. Now this search filter is working as expected. Now next thing, like we can implement our sorting logic. Now for that we can go back to our table here, and we can see where is the sorting functionality. So this is the sorting section. Now here if we go back here, now here we can see we need to use this MatSort at the table level first. We can go here, and here we can add at table level. We can add MatSort first. We can save it. Next thing, like we need to add this MatSort header for all our columns. Now we need to add it at ID level, its name, and its email, and its salary. We can save it. Now next thing, inside our TS we need to use this variable for sort. We can copy, and we can go to home.ts, and we can define this variable here, and add import for this one as well. Here mention in, we can save it. So this is about MatSort. Now so we are using this MatSort. Okay, so we need to add the similar module here, MatSort module. You can save it. Seems good. Now let us check if it works. Now there is one more thing we need to check. This we have defined, and we need to use it. Now here we can see we need to add this implementation inside ng after init. Okay, so for that we can do ng So we need to implement this, and we can provide implementation for ng after unit. Now instead of this one, we can use this method and add it. We can remove this. That's it. Fine. We can save it. Now next thing, like here inside this, we can use this sort. Let us add this sort. Now our sorting logic is complete. What all things we have done. Now let us check. This is the refresh. Now we can see it is sorting on ID. Similar way it is sorting on name, and this is on email, and this is on salary. Seems good. Our sorting is working fine. So let me recall it what all things we have done. Like first, we have added MatSort to our table level. Next, we have added MatSort header to all our columns, and we have added one MatSort module in our TS file. Next, inside our TS file, we have added this sort variable, and we have initialized that sort variable inside this one and inside ng after unit, and this is the interface we have implemented. Fine, we have saved it. Our sort is working fine. Next thing what we can do, we need to implement our pagination part. So let us go to pagination section. This is the pagination. Now here, to achieve the pagination, we can copy this block which is after table, mat table, and we can go to our after mat table, we can add this. Now we need to add a module for this one, like which is MatPaginator module. You can save it. Fine. Next thing what we need to do, like here we need to copy one variable, and we need to add it here, and we can add import for this one, and here we can use any. Fine. Next thing, we can add this part into ng after unit, and we can save it. Seems good. Now let us check. The pagination is added. We can see it is what options we have used in pagination, like these are 5, 10 and 20, and all these options it is showing like 5, 10, 20 as such. Fine. So this we are on the first page. Once we click on next page, it will show the next page. Similar way, once we click on next, it will show the last page, and once we reach on last page, it will disable the next page and last page, because we do not have any further page to show. Similar way, once we click on previous page, it will show the previous 5 records. Likewise, it will keep on showing, and once we reach on the first page, it will disable the first page or the previous page, because we do not have any previous record to show. Now if you want to change this, like 369, we can make it accordingly. If we go back at here, and so this is the home.html, here you can make it like 3, 6 and 9. We can save it. Now let us check how it looks. You can see 3, 6, 9. Okay, fine, seems good. It is getting applied. Now we have created the table. Now let us do one thing. Here we can add some CSS part for that. Now I have copied some CSS. Let me add it. Now this is for home.component.css. We can copy and we can add it at here. I have prepared this CSS. Fine. Next thing, like we can add user form, so that we can add next. Now this is for style dot css. Okay, so here we can add this, like we can add this company, we can save it. Now we can see it is reflecting as expected since code. And what we have done, like let me show you what is happening. Like, so here this is the mat this header rows, like this is the blue color which we are showing to the headers, and this is the rows. We have 30 pixel width height we have set, and this is for even rows, like for every even row it will show this color. Okay, fine, we have applied the color palette to the rows. Now next thing what we can focus on, once we click on add button, it should open the material dialog box. That part we can start creating on. So this is our add button. Now here we can add one, like on click of this one we can say open dialog, and here we can pass the data. So here we need to pass our employee. Fine. Now we can add one function for this employee. Now here we can define one constant like dialog ref, and here you can say this dot. So first of all we need to define one dialog variable. We can use read only dialog, we can use inject, and here we can mention mat dialog. We need to add import for this one. Fine. Now here we can open this like dialog dot, we can say open, and here what element we want to open, we can mention, which is like employee form component, and here we can pass data like data, and what is the data here, which is an employee. That's it, and we can save it. Now save it. Now here what we can do, like we can use dialog ref dot after closed function, and we can subscribe, and here we can say a result if result is not equal to undefined. In that case it should we need to define one variable, like here employee, which is of type employee, is equal to, we can say id, which is a 0, name blank, next email, which is a blank, next salary, we can mention any undefined. Now also first of all here we can mention name. These many fields we are going to display into the material dialog box, like a name which is of string and it's a blank, we can initialize it with blank. Next thing we have email, which is again string, we can initialize it with blank, and last we have salary, which is of type any undefined. Now what we can do here, instead of 0 we can say this dot salary. That's it. Now we can save it. Now here we can go back at here and we can say this dot employee dot id is equal to result dot id. So similar way we can copy for rest of the three of attributes, like phone name, it should be name, this is an email and it should be email, and finally it's an salary, and here it should be salary, and we can save it. Fine. So we have this open dialog is ready. Now let us check how it looks. Since good, it is opening the employee forms. Now if we go into the employee forms, the HTML, it is showing the employee forms. That means our dialog is getting opened. Now let us add the controls within this. Like first of all we can define one container, inside which first we are going to use mat field. Now we can copy one mat field, or let it be, we can directly add. Okay, so first of all inside this what we can do, this is our first div. So this is the dialog, material dialog we are going to use. So this is first div in which we are going to show the close button at the right corner of the dialog form. Next thing, this div is for showing the title, and this div is for showing the content, and this div is for showing the action buttons. We can save it. Now let us go back at here, and first of all in this ts file, sorry, this is the ts, inside this ts file we need to add like mat dialog module, mat dialog title, mat dialog content, and mat dialog actions we can add, and we can save it. Now here we can go it here. So this is for showing the cross button, and here now here we can say mat dialog, sorry it should be mat dialog title. Here we can add mat dialog content, and here we can add mat dialog actions, you can see. Now here we can add mat form field. Here we can add input, and this is like it's a mat input. Now we need to add import for mat form field module, next mat input module, and we can save it. Now let us check by clicking this one. Seems good, it is showing. Now here so here it should be button, we are showing the close button. So here we can say it's a mat icon button, and here we can add style. It should be float right corner we are going to show, and we can add some margin like 15 pixel, and we can save it. Now here we can add mat icon, and here we can say close, and here we can add some color which is red, as it is a close button. Now we can save it. This is the mat icon button, we need to add import it, like here you can add mat icon module. Next thing like Okay, and we can save it. Now let us check by calling the seems code. It is showing the red button. Next thing, like here, this is the title. Here we can add one header, and here we can say it's an employee form, and here we can add some style, like we can add some color, like we can use this color, and next we can add text align. We can use center. Save it. Now let us check how it looks. Okay, now here for this container we can add some style, and we can mention some width, like it's a 350 pixel. You can save it. Now let us check how it looks. Seems good. Now let us add the content part, like we need to add mat form field, inside which we can add input, and this is like mat input, and here we can add one placeholder, like enter name, and we can save it. So this is for name. Seems good. Similar way we can repeat for. Now after this, like next to name we can add mat icon, and here we can say font icon. Let's say it's a person, and we can save it. Now let us check how it looks. We can add mat suffix. Seems good. This icon is coming. Now next thing, this is for name. We can add one line break, and we can add this is for email, and next this is for salary. So here we can say it's an email, and we can add email, and this is for salary. This should be number, and this is the salary. If there is a salary icon available, it will show, or you can see check for the respective icon and add it. Now these are all three fields we have added. Now let us add action parts. Here we can add button, and here we can add mat flat button. We can name it, like first is submit, next we can say it's cancel, and here we can say align center, and for cancel button we are going to add color, which is like 1, so we want to show it as a red for cancel. Now it is not showing anything, like we need to import mat button module as well, and we can save it. Now let us check. Seems good, it is showing as expected. Now let us add on click logic. Here we can add mat dialog close as a true, and for submit as well we can add mat dialog close. Here we can pass the data. For now we can check the cancel button, how it works, since code cancel is working. Now for this one data, we first need to define some data. Now this is our employee component. Here we can mention the data, and it is like we can inject. First of all, we need to define some read-only dialog reference component, and we can inject, and it should be mat dialog ref, and the component we need to mention, which is like employee form component. That's it. We need to add import for this one. Now here for data we can use inject, and here it is an employee, and here we can see use mat dialog data variable. It is a constant, we can use. Fine, complete. We can save it. Now this is the data we need to use it here. Fine, yes, saved. Now on click of submit, it should show submit the data. So for that we can use like click, and here we can say add or edit employee, and here we can pass the data. You can save it, and for this we need to define one method it here, like add or edit method, and this is the employee it here, which will get passed. We can say if employee.id is there. If id is there, so first of all for this first we need to define one constructor inside which we can use our employee service, which is employee service. Now here we can call this service like this dot employee service dot, we can say if user id is not equal to 0, that means if it has some user id or if it has some user id, go for, we need to call update method. So we have not created update method. Let us create one update method and create method inside this service. Let us copy it, and here we can create one. This is the create employee. Now for create employee, so we are going to use post method, and it should return only single employee, and here we need to pass some data like which is of input as an employee. Here we can pass the data. That's it. We can save it. Similar way we can add one update method, and this is the update method, and here we are going to use put mapping, and for put mapping we need to pass id as well along with the modified data, and we can save it. We can also write one delete method so that everything seems good. Okay, so delete we can add later on. So first of all we can integrate these methods into our here. Now here, if it is id is not equal to 0, that means it has some id. We can call update employee, and here we can pass this employee, and we can call subscribe. Next, can say data, we can log the message, can say employee updated successfully. Next thing, like we can call window dot location dot reload, so that we do not need to refresh it. That's it. So this is about. Next, in case of error, we are going to log the error. That's it. Can save it. So this is about sorry, error bracket should be like this one. So this is about if the employee has some id. In that case, we are going to use this one. Now in case employee, okay, so in case employee id is not there, that means if it is a blank or 0, in that case we need to call create employee. Here we can say employee created successfully, and we can save it. Now we have this add or edit employee in place. Now let us check with our dialog box, dialog material dialog. So before that, here one more change we need to do. So after this, like we can call change detection as an change detection strategy as an on push. That's it. And there is now here inside form we need to, this is the input, right? And for each input we need to use ng model, so that whatever we changes we make, that will get reflected to it here, like data dot name. Now for this we need to add import for like common module as well as form module, and save it. Now here this is for name. Similar way we can add for email, and here we can add for salary. Fine. Now let us check with our add button. Here we can add one new entry, like let's say Shivam. Email is like shivam@ gmail.com, and salary we can say 1 lakh, and we can submit. Now we can see record is added successfully. Fine, seems good. Now our addition is working fine with the new record. Now this add or edit employee method we are going to use for updation as well. So to add the updation part or check that, we first need to add the action button it here. Now to do that, let us go to our home, and here we need to add the action buttons. So before it, here we need to go to home.ts file. Here we need to the displayed column, we need to add one column like it's edit. Next is for delete. You can save it. Now let us go to the here. Now we can copy this and we can add one for edit. So this ng container is repeated, we can remove one, and this is like edit, and this MatSort header is not required here, and here we can add one button, and we can add mat flat button, and we can name it like it's an edit. Now here for this button we can add some style, height like 27 pixel, and width we can mention it's an auto. Fine, so this is about edit. We can copy the similar, and we can add one more for delete. This is for delete. This ng container is redundant, we can remove. You can say it is for delete. And here you can add color like one, because this is delete, we need to show some red button for this, and we can save it. Let us check how it looks. Now we can see it is showing as expected. Now on click of edit button, it should open the respective entry. So let us check if we have added anything. On click, nothing. Now we can use this on click open dialog employee and copy it, and for edit we can use the same, like this is the employee. Fine. Now let us check how it works. Now here we can click, seems good, it is showing as expected. Now here if we go for Arnav, fine. This is for Vijay, seems good. Now let us try by editing something, like this is Tom. Instead of Tom we can say it's David, and here we can mention David, and here we can say 77,000. Seems good. It is reflecting as expected. That means our edit is working fine and we have successfully updated the record. If we want to try with one more, like let's say Robert 111, here we can add 111 and here we can use 888. Seems good. It is showing as expected. Our edit is working now. Let us implement our delete functionality. So for delete functionality, we need to call our delete method. So here we can copy this, and for this is the delete, and the click functionality we can call delete, and here employee dot id we can pass which we want to, can say it's a delete employee, and this id is enough for deleting the employee. We can copy, and we need to add one function inside our home.ts. Here is id which is of number, and here now we need to define one method inside service.ts for deletion, and here we can add, and this is like delete employee, and here id is enough which is of type number, and here we are calling delete, and here just passing id is enough for this one. Seems good. We can save it. Now we can go back to our home.ts file, and here we can call this dot employee service dot delete employee, and here we can pass this id, and here we can call subscribe, and for subscribe you can say for data you can call this dot users, we can use this dot users, oh sorry, here we should use this dot employees, and this dot employees dot filter we can call, and here for each atom we can say atom dot id is not equal to given id. That means we have deleted the record for this id. Now next thing, like we can call window dot location dot reload, so that we do not need to refresh our window. Now let us check how it works. Now this is our delete functionality. Now let us try to delete the last one. So before we do this, we need to add one confirmation box which will ask us whether we want to delete. We can say is confirmed, we can say window dot confirm, and here we can say are you sure you want to delete. If he clicks on OK button, that means it is confirmed. In that case only it should delete this and do this. That's it. Now we have saved. Now let us check on the screen how it works. Now this is the delete button. Now it has shown the confirmation. Once we click on OK, now we can see the record is deleted successfully. Now let us try to delete the id 10. Once we click on OK, id 10 is deleted successfully, and is our delete is working fine. So with this we have covered everything what we have discussed before we start this video. I will request you to please like and subscribe this video, and I'm sure that you must have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching this. I will once again request you to please like and subscribe the same. Thank you so much for watching this video.